because death metal is already for me personally, death metal is already succeeded industry, because now you can talk about everything in death metal, and I don't find any elites anymore, because for me personally it's interesting to have elites in a genre, because the balance from elites and the hipsters, sometimes it gives a really cool dynamics in the scene, because
Headbangers. Hi, welcome back to the Headbangers podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today we're joined by Rio from Pure Wrath. How you doing, man? Start off with.
I'm good. I hope you guys are also good. The
Yeah, man.
usual.
Sunday
Try
chilling
to,
out.
yeah, try to promote the new album as much as I can. Also, try to help Yuri that currently in the war now. And
Yeah,
so
man.
on.
Yeah, we'll get into it all. I want to start off with a little icebreaker first, though. What's your funniest tour story that you can recall, or gig story?
Funniest gig stories.
Yep.
With Pura so far, nothing really fun in the on stage or something like that. But last February we got a East Java tour in the Java region in Indonesia, where after the gig the whole of the band members and crews are getting really weird sickness. We got a really brutal flu with the green saliva and thing like that.
Oh,
Super
wow.
weird. Yeah, super weird virus for almost one month, and we are doing good now and try to find as much as big as we can. So, yeah, that's only the thing, I guess, because we never get this kind of sickness.
I always find it weird now, when other sicknesses are spreading around, you always think it's just COVID now because that's just the thing, but then there is other things as well that are going around. It's so weird.
We weren't think about COVID so far, because we all got vaccine and it's getting better over here. And
good.
I think it's just the funny thing is we didn't do touring for a long time, like almost 2 years, and suddenly we got very tight dates, and we all just get sick. So yeah, we just not used anymore with touring. So I think that's why, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely. As well, one
Yeah.
thing I kind of want to ask you is what's the metal scene like in Indonesia at the moment? Is there any much of local scenes popping up, everything like that?
It's we would say that our metal scene here is very huge in quantity. There is always new bands every week. Especially in death metal genre, because Indonesia is kind of the death metal mecca or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's really big, and most of people even can live from death metal, like as a full-time death metal musician. So it's become a industry, at least in death metal.
Yeah.
And now we are expanding to another kind of metal, such black metal is getting big. Not big, I mean, it's growing now, and so on, post metal and things like that. So I guess it's promising for living, at least.
Oh
yeah.
Is it a good sense of community, in the sense that bands support each other then? When you do gigs and you do tours, do you all promote each other and help each other get bigger? Or is it sort of a more of a competition to see who's the best sort of thing?
I think competition is always there in terms of, innovating the music and create something new. But we do have, this kind of band founded medias, and most of people who's in the band, they have kind of fanzine and YouTube channel, or basically it's supporting each other, but not kind of, I don't know. I don't find there's I didn't find so far the media that, like, run by somebody that's not in the band.
Yeah.
Like especially metal media that's run by like people without band. But here most of band members are running labels and designs on radio, so I think it's based on kind of brotherhood thing.
Yeah. That's cool to see.
Yeah, that's I think that's how it works here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's good to sort of have that sort of basis, like where like everyone, as long as everyone like pumps into like the scene, like and go, oh, okay. I feel like it's good as well to have like a good part of like healthy competition where it's like each band pushes each other to be better as well. I feel like it's good. I think it's good like to have like a mixture of both, like people really like helping each other out, but also being like, yeah, but like when we release something, it's gonna blow your thing out the water, and it's like then it makes you go, but like after that, I'm gonna make a point to make our stuff even better than that, and it's just like a healthy amount of competition does go a long way.
Yeah.
I think that's like just the basic musicianship, kind of not in terms of this kind of bad competition, but most of this, like like try to create something new each other, and
Yeah.
competition in term of, I don't know, like bringing something that people never seen before.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
actually I want to say something, like I'm sorry for my approximate English because I'm
No,
No, it's
barely
okay.
speak English.
It's
So,
No, it's
okay.
yeah.
all good.
Yeah,
I
no,
want to
yeah.
ask
In
as well
case
about.
in case my answer is not really good, you can tell me.
No,
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 it's all
don't worry,
good.
man. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's pretty informal on here, isn't it, Neff? Like, we don't,
Yeah,
it's not too professional, so
Yeah,
don't worry.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I do think like I do think it's good like having that sort of vibe in the scene, because I always look at it from like like the Florida death metal side of things, where you had all these bands that like really fucked with each other and really wanted like to push each other in all sort of ways, and I feel like that's what made like that era of death metal so great, was because you just had all these bands come up at once just trying to one
yeah.
up each other, but also like really like, but like, oh yeah, no, but we love these guys, like we'll take them on tour and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But at the same time, they were there like, yeah, but how can we one up their album? And then that band were like, how can we one up their album? And it's like it just created this really great like sort of era, obviously of 90s death metal because of it, because everyone would just constantly like really like got on with each other, but also at the same time like, yeah, but how can we like push each other in a way? I think it's good to have that in a scene.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But sometimes this kind of thing also creates this kind of generic scene, because they just want to play the same thing each other sometimes. Like for example, in Indonesia, in terms of death metal or brutal death metal in general, they try to play like the old bands, what the
Mm.
old bands play. For example, everybody just sound the same, like Jassad or other bands that considered as successful,
Yeah.
Mm.
and just so in terms of audio, in terms of music, it's a bit generic somehow, and a bit boring for me personally. So what they try to give is only the optical thing, like cover art or the stage presentation. So I don't think in terms of competition in music they are doing something new because
Mm.
sometimes
Yeah.
it just sounds the same. I mean it's cool because there's character of the country itself, just like Florida, like
Mm.
Swedish chainsaw thing, or even this British sound. But for me personally, I would love to have a kind of very what's to call a very various music in the scene.
Yeah,
Even death
yeah.
metal can be very various, I guess. So
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask about your new album then, because it is really good, to be honest. I see
Thank
like
you.
a lot of influence and like there's like a lot of neoclassical elements. At least that's what I got from it. Like, when you listen to the soundscape, it's very much in depth. It's not just straightforward black metal. There's also some like symphonic elements thrown in there. What was like the process of creating this? Was there like any influences outside of metal that were put in there? Because to me, when I listen to it, it doesn't seem like just metal influence, personally.
Thank you for listening.
It was fun.
Actually, if lots of people came up with the neoclassical ideas and stuff like that. But actually, honestly, I don't really know what kind of thing I put in because basically everything I write on Pura most of the times always based on like film scoring and
I
film
see that.
soundtracks. I'm really into watching movies, but I pay attention more into the background music scoring. For example, in this new album, I really I was into film noir, kind of 60s
Nice.
dark movies, and like Mediterranean stuff, kind of guitar acoustic thing. So yeah, just try to put what's stuck in my head into the music without like specifically put classical thing or this kind of scales or something. I don't know. I have difficulties to tell people about what kind of um, music I'm influenced by because most of the time it came up because of movies. So
Yeah.
yeah, like film scoring most of the
What would
time.
you say then? Like, if you had to put your album as the film score to any movie, what would it be and why?
Maybe The Godfather, maybe.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a cool, like,
I'm a
a
big
cool
fan. Yeah,
addition.
I'm a big fan of the film. So, but I think if you listen to the new album and you watch the first Godfather film at the same time, I think you will find the correlation between the
Nice.
because it's very influenced by the Italian music thing, I guess.
Yeah.
In at the end after I listened to my own album with my friends and everybody just agree with me like, hey man, it sounds like mafia movie and thing like so. So I
It's
guess
crazy that you say that. It's crazy that you say that because like we haven't like really had many bands say, oh yeah, mainly focus on film scoring. Like I think the only other people that we had say it was Cradle of Filth. A lot of what they do, Danny Filth writes a lot of their music, and he actually like has shit tons of, like little like demo tapes of like old. I think he has like old vinyl of just movie scores and shit like that. Like he just has he has like a love of like film and also like a love of music, and it just crosses. So it's quite interesting that he sort of pulled that up because I've not really heard many other bands go, oh, I enjoy movies a lot, so I base it off film scoring.
But I think as well,
Yeah,
that's why your album, I think, is quite unique because you have the sort of film score element. So you're not just like ripping off another black metal band. It's like it sounds original because you've got these other elements that make it so much more in depth, and it's like exciting to listen to.
thank you. Yeah, but for me personally, of course I listen to music, but what really give me like what really turns me on is always how you pay attention to the dynamics in the film because every scene has its own emotions and moods and the dynamics itself and the
Yeah.
motion and then how the music in the background try to give you the feeling
Yeah.
through through the optic and to cover the optic so
Yeah, definitely.
it
Like if it's a
always
tense
always
scene,
stuck in my head.
Yeah, if it's like a tense scene in the film and they're playing like happy music behind it, it's gonna ruin that scene. So like,
Yeah, true,
I
true.
mean, it definitely like I feel like it definitely if you're a musician, you should sort of look into that because it's like I want someone to feel like this when they listen to it. How do movies
Yeah.
actually make like do that feeling as well? Like there's like a hidden frequency that were hidden in like this like this French film in like the 90s,
Yeah,
and
yes.
it's a frequency you can't hear, but if you it makes you feel uncomfortable. Like it does, the
Yeah.
frequency does
I
something to
know
your
the
body when you're
idea.
like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
get the idea.
I always wondered what would happen if like a death metal band just snuck that like frequency in there, like you know, like in just one song, like you know, like a really intense song, just to make someone be like, oh, what's happening? I've always wondered it because I'm like, I reckon that'd be
Yeah,
an interesting reaction from people, like. So yeah, I think it is. I think it is also really, really important to sort of base it off of that as well, because being able to get emotion through your music is kind of like what
yeah.
you kind of aim for.
Yeah.
I wished my cover art even, moving, while you play the music because I try to portray, for example, people buy the vinyl of the new album
Yeah.
and they just, play it on the turntable and, watching the sleeves, I want it has some, this kind of specific life, when you listen to the music. So
I was
yeah, I
going to ask
think I
about the
would.
cover art actually, because it's such an amazing piece, and I noticed that it's very similar to your previous album. Like, did you use the same guy again? Because it's just it's nice consistency to see that it could
Yeah.
almost be like a full picture when you put them both together. So, was it the same guy? Like, what was the process behind that?
Agi Purakusuma is the one who drew all the cover arts of Pura. Yeah, I always have really good time with him, but while discussing about what I want to do, what I want to get in the album. And this guy is very, like I don't know, it's doing thing with him always flawless because he always translate my verbal output into the art very fast. He just do sketch in front of me and show it to me after 15 minutes, and I just like, oh, just let's just do it. He's very flawless artist to work with.
Oh yeah, I
I
think
I
it's
will always,
important.
yeah, very,
I'm sorry.
yeah, because the chemistry between the musician and the everybody who works behind the album, such an artist and the sessionist, is very important. So I just keep working with him maybe for the next 20 years or something because I'm a kind of uh, a guy that very hard to work with, like new people if I don't really find fit to
Mm.
work with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. I think it's good to have like as well, like we've even spoke about it with with like a couple of our friends that run their own like little studio, like called Sage Bastard Studios. That they were talking more in terms of, like producing as well. Like they said, oh, like it's important like for artists to try to work with the same people, which like because it gives that consistency throughout. Like in terms of like producing, it's like instead of bouncing around producers, stick to that one because that guy will grow with you and will really understand your sound by the end of it. And
Yeah.
it's the same with art as well. Like I feel like that gets neglected as well. It's like if you work with one guy, after like a couple of years of working with each other, you get a flow naturally, and you'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, and he might even listen to some of your tracks and just go, I've got an idea for the art just off the bat. So I think it is
Yeah.
important just to try to work with like the same people because
Yeah.
it does offer a consistency as an artist.
Yes, I agree with that because I really, really love to work with. I don't know how to call this kind of thing. Is it like conservative or something?
Yeah.
Because yeah, once you get along with, right people behind you, or
Yeah.
it's just like, kind of family. So it's really cool to have the right people working with me. So Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I think it will be like 4 years. So yeah, like you said.
definitely. As well, like on the sort of the subject of the new album, like what was like, would you say is the biggest challenge while writing it?
The biggest challenge writing the album.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I don't know. Technically, I don't really find any difficulties anymore because uh, now we found the structure to work together. Since my drummer lives in Ukraine and uh, me in Indonesia, I just write everything completely and send everything to him with like all the elements like guitars, bass, and strings behind, just like draft. But I try to make it as if it's the completed um, composition. So
Hmm.
when he tried to record by himself, he already feel comfortable.
Yeah.
To find this kind of feeling, this kind of structure needs very long time actually for me personally, because you have to think about what will he feel during the recording before you send all the data to him. So it's like
Yeah.
thinking about him even before you send everything. So
Oh, yeah,
Has it been
especially
difficult?
yeah.
Has it been difficult having like a member in Ukraine, and like has it been tough as a band, and obviously as I suppose friends as well, just like dealing with that this time?
I mean, these times and this crazy times, or while during the writing.
Just during like obviously what's going on with like Ukraine right now, has it been like difficult on the band and as friends? Obviously, you having to watch him go through that.
We have so many plans actually for this year, such doing music videos,
Yeah.
and the possibilities of touring this summer. Actually, we try to come to Europe, and we have talked already to some agents to get us on the road. But this kind of this thing happens, and we cannot really plan anything anymore, and we just try to focus on maybe there's possibilities to evacuate him somehow.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's it's not possible. So what we can do is try to help him with living support, such funds for food and his family thing. Yeah, so many, just so many plans cannot be done in the
Yeah.
next months. So we cannot really plan anything after
Mhm.
this happens. So
Is he allowed to leave Ukraine then, or is he like forced to stay because of the situation?
I think he has to stay there. I mean,
Yeah.
I found some info about. Yeah, he told me that all the males have to stay there.
yeah,
But his
yeah,
mother now currently in Germany. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. Because I was reading that if anyone's healthy and able, it's basically like, come on,
yeah.
yeah. Like, it's kind of like you kind of got to serve, haven't you? Because I think one of my friends from work, um, he's got a friend that was originally from the Ukraine, he met him because he was studying university in Poland. And he got a text from him, like I think the day that Russia finally invaded,
Uh, uh,
saying, then it was basically his friend saying, I've just literally like got like a call saying
yeah.
I'm going back to the Ukraine to fight. It's like,
All right.
he went, obviously he went, I'm gonna have to go. So it was crazy. It's like hearing that side from someone I work with as well. Like, like him saying, it's crazy seeing his friend like get that text or that call and being like, shit,
Yeah.
it's time for me to go.
Yeah. I mean, Yuri is a musician. What he wants to do is playing music, doing
Yeah.
concerts and such. But I'm glad at least he's not in the battlefield, you know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
he's currently safe in some place, you know, like very safe place, like very far from,
Good to hear.
you know, all these things. So I hope there will be solution and it will end soon, you know, because really sorry to the people, you know.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
it's disrupted so many people's lives, and
Yeah,
it just feels like yeah, there's been sanctions against Russia and everything like that, but I just don't feel they were as severe as they should have been, really, because I mean, what Russia's done to the Ukraine is just flat out disgusting. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
they've
definitely.
literally ruined millions of people's lives
Yeah,
just from this one act of like one leader just deciding I'm gonna have a big dick measuring contest and just see if I can win. It's just disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah yeah. It always, you know, all this elite bullshit always, you know, make people suffers only, you know, since day one of nation thing blah. So yeah, it will always happen like that. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Absolutely.
hope for the best.
yeah. It's one of those things. It's like it's upsetting because it's like, you know, like the people that are put into control of these like of countries and everything like that, like they've got no regard of like their actions, or like the effect that their actions have on the millions of people that either live in their country or other countries. And it's just I feel like it shows like the attitude to that most
Yeah,
like politicians do have sometimes with this stuff. It's like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
going to start a war. It's like I don't care about the people that live in my country that have to
yes,
be conscripted into fighting a war they don't believe in, and I don't and they just don't care about the people that they're trying to invade and disrupting that many people's lives, having to, you know, having them flee their homes. It's just
yeah,
it's just this entire situation has just been crazy to see and witness. I didn't think we'd see anything like this in our lifetime,
yeah,
really.
Yeah.
yeah. As a lot we know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So what got you into heavier music then? Like what was the turning point for you, you know, as a, I don't know how young you were when you got into it, but what's the story behind that?
Behind the album itself.
Just like what got you into like the heavier side of music, so, you know, like black metal, death metal, just heavy metal in general. Like what were you listening to when you were younger? Like how long has it been, you know,
Ah,
getting into it?
I grew up with you know, my dad listening to heavy metal basically. So it came from my parents, and my mom basically a big fan of Scorpions. So it's not really hard for me to access you know, hard music in general. And then in the high school, I met lots of cool people who showed me death metal. So it was kind of crazy because I never heard, you know, Cancer or Benediction, and they just came out with tapes, and we trade some tapes because I want to listen to death metal and my friend wants to listen to you know, this kind of 90s British music like
Yeah.
slow dive and thing, you know. So we trade slow dive with Cancer, so it was cool for me. And after you know, I discovered Cancer, it, you know, it goes to the more extreme genre like brutal death metal, and I'm stuck there for almost 10 years now in brutal death metal scene, which is I still play along with brutal death bands too. So basically, I'm a brutal death guy and try to get side project because I love black metal too at the same time. So Pure was started as a bedroom side project. It's just me and my computer in my bedroom basically.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't expected to have, you know, this kind of full band uh, form because I wasn't thinking that the music can be heard, you know, in the worldwide, but actually it turned out, like lots of people buying it. Lots of people came up and told me that they like it. So I just keep making albums for almost, like 8 years now, with Yura. And then I met Yuri, this drummer, and other friends try to get me on stage, help me on the station guitar player and so on. So it's just like, all right, just let's bring this band to let's bring this project as a band now, like very serious. So
Yeah.
it's just like that.
What swung you
Oh, yeah.
towards like black metal then? So you said that you mostly like a brutal death kid. What swung you towards like doing black metal instead then? Was it because of what you said earlier on that you felt like brutal death metal in Indonesia was like quite overdone? Like a lot of bands were sort of doing
Yeah.
that, so you wanted to go against the grain?
For me personally, yeah, I would say it's overdone, and I don't really feel there, there will be a boundary to smash, because for me personally, brutal death metal already found its peak. You cannot really move towards the wall anymore. Like for me, it's just done like that. So I don't really personally feel interested to do it anymore. But for me, black metal offers me a wider perspective, because it has this kind of weird evolution.
Yeah.
If you know, like band such a post black metal thing, this black gaze thing, it just work with all kinds of music. You can mix everything into black metal nowadays. So I find it's a good chance to learn about this genre and maybe bring new thing to my local scene. So there will be, fresh refreshment. So it will not be only this blast beats, heavy brutal death only in this country. So I guess that's what came up in, behind my head.
Yeah, definitely. Like
Yeah.
I've always said this to Brad, like, like I feel like black metal as a genre, like if you strip it back, like it's so malleable in what you can put in there. Like like you can go, oh, like it's like bands like Mole, like they've
Imperial
Yeah.
Triumphant. Yeah.
they've put
Yeah. Oh yeah, true.
they've put so many elements into it, and it's like it's become like it's still black metal, but it's something so different at the same time.
Yeah.
And I feel like black metal is just a genre where you can just do anything you want to it, and
Yes.
it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Because death metal is already, for me personally, death metal is already succeeded industry, because now you can talk about everything in death metal, and I don't find any elites anymore, because for me personally, it's interesting to have elites in a genre, because the balance from elites and the hipsters, sometimes it gives a really cool dynamics in the scene, because it will always give innovation and inputs to the music itself. So that's why I think black metal is like boundless, or no boundary, like or there is boundary, but very very vast, that you have to explore more. So it's very interesting to develop here, at least.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I remember when me and my band were writing, like I always wanted to put black metal influences in there, and we ended up doing that, and we were like we were a hardcore band. So when we put we used a lot of trem picking, and we used a lot of more darker sort of themes around it.
yeah.
It was quite funny, because I always joked with them, that when like we released our first track, I said like a lot of people were calling us death metal, and I was there like, so
Yeah.
so we found the answer. It's like when we mixed hardcore with black metal, we got death metal,
That
and that's what we were always
that's
joking
cool.
about. But yeah, no, it was like,
That's cool.
yeah, it was like one of those things where I was like, I wasn't expecting to like people to like be like, oh yeah, this is death metal band. We're like, oh, no, we're just hardcore kids that listen to black metal.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we were going for.
It came out like Oathbreaker though, you know.
Mm.
If you know
Yeah, I've
Oathbreaker
heard
from Belgium, yeah, it's just like hardcore kids playing black metal, and it sounds really awesome. So
Yeah, man.
Well,
yeah,
it's like for hell. Like I always said to him, like, you know, like I've been a massive fan of For Hell for quite a few years.
I thought,
You know, like, from when they was a hardcore band to now that they're a black metal band. I was just said like, I said I just loved their music that much, and I was there like, I just want to put black metal in there because I just like that genre so much. I think that in certain sections it helps so much, and I feel like it's good to also have some filler. Like if you're not sure what to put in a place, it's like, oh, how about just some trem picking and some just like really relentless drums? And I'm
yeah.
like, oh yeah, that fits really well. And it's like, yeah, it's because that using that method, it doesn't feel like you've just kind of come up with something on the spot. Like when you put that there, it's just a good little filler into the next part.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting time to be honest. Like now, like I hate it when people say that metal's dead because to me, like right now, it's the peak time for it. Like there's so many bands that are like they're not going out to be. I'm being this type of genre. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna lend a bit of black metal, a bit of death metal, a bit of this, a bit of that, and like they put it all together, and that's why there's so many interesting albums because like nobody's afraid to really, bring an influence even like outside of metal,
Yeah.
and just bringing in like if you guys are you've got this sort of like neoclassical sound on top, whether it was intentional or not. Like it just makes it so much more interesting, and there's like loads of bands that are just bringing all these cool elements and just making it massive, like a big soundscape.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting that one of my favorite bands, Der Weg eine Freiheit from Germany.
Yeah.
If you know the band, their latest album from last year is very diverse to their previous works because they even have dream pop song in it. So
Oh wow.
yeah, they can still sound very intense and very melancholic, very like depressing somehow in some parts, but they still have this kind of uplifting ends. And so yeah, this genre basically evolving. So that's
Yeah.
why it's very very interesting.
Well, it's like we've got people like Zio and Ardor coming out as well, where they've like I feel like he's pushed the boundaries for black metal as well, like in his most recent one. Because I was saying I showed my girlfriend, I said like I was saying like it just feel I said like there's some parts where his vocals are almost like country like vocals. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got that
Yeah.
sort of gravelly, soft
Mm.
tone in his vocals. I said, and then like it'll just switch to just this black, absolutely like unrealistic like black metal screen, like just like that. There's bits in this song where he switches from English to like I think it was like German, like or Swiss. He just switches on a dime to that. It's like it was. I feel like when he released the album this year, it was like, oh, how can I like put everything that I can possibly think
That's
of,
one of
like
my
even
absolute
to like
faves. Yeah.
or even to like the back end of the album, there's like a really happy, like almost pop song when it starts off. Like,
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, am I still listening to the same album? And it's just crazy seeing like what people have done with black metal and like how they've changed it and molded it and like really put their own influences on what they want to do in there as well. Like you've got now, I feel like we've got musicians because of like streaming and everything like that. They go, yeah, I like metal, but I also like shoegaze. I wonder what happens if I put black metal into shoegaze. It's like,
Then
no,
get more.
like,
it's happening now. Yeah, shoegaze black metal thing.
It weirdly works though as well. Like
it
like on
really
paper.
works. It really works because I think it has the same atmosphere somehow, in terms of, like this aquatic wavy thing,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
basic black metal is like aquatic, but in a distortion, but some shoegaze, like, for example, My Bloody Valentine is very distorted, but have a really nice vocals, it just works like Alcest, and
Yeah,
Oh,
Death Heaven, so yeah,
no,
it's really interesting.
yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. I
I
feel
want
like
to ask about. Go on, F.
yeah, I feel like there was like a bit of a transition period. Like I feel like when black metal first came out, it was kind of like the idea of it. How can we like make something that's like the opposite of how you should write music, right? And then like
Yeah.
after, I feel like after it first came out and like people sat on it for a year, they went, "What if we just build it on an atmosphere that the music creates
Yeah.
rather than trying to be like this rebellious sort of genre?" And I feel like when it went through that sort of transitional period, that's when we've started seeing all these bands sort of go out, because now it's not about going, oh, how can I make it just sound like noise and like as bad as possible for
People
like,
want to
like
make it
making
sound
the
good now.
point. It's like people are now like, yeah, but I kind of want my music to sound good. And like now everyone's like, oh, but it's more about the atmosphere black metal does. It's
Yeah,
like,
all
oh,
about the atmosphere, I think.
when you put it on that baseline of just atmosphere is
I,
so broad where you're like, well, that could be anything really. I feel like that's why we've seen so many bands do that now.
That's what I
I,
got you guys saying. I want to be the black metal godfather, making it the sound score to that. So it's interesting for sure. I want to ask about like your hobbies and interests then outside of music. Like, what do you get up to? What do you enjoy doing in your pastime?
uh, uh, cooking maybe.
Oh yeah,
I love to try some, recipes, and you know, I don't know, it always end up on, outside cooking. It always end up on my music table, so I don't really have diverse hobbies outside music because it always related to music. But now I try to, you know, uh, get new movies maybe because for a long time I haven't seen any movies sometimes for some
yeah.
time. So yeah, watch movies and cooking maybe.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to do some good marketing and products for PRF. You could do a PRF cooking book. That could be a hint of the woeful meals.
I don't know. I found it. I find it's ridiculous, but maybe in the future, I don't know.
It was like
Oh yeah.
I think there was like a band a couple of years ago that made like I think like a joke cooking book that ended up just being the tab book basically. And it was really interesting like how they
That would be
marketed it.
ridiculous, but good idea.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like it kind of just like broke down like the riff and like the drum patterns in it,
Yeah,
and it was there like, oh, this is it, and it was basically like, this is how you play the song. And it was like, oh,
yeah.
it's basically a cooking book for music. It's like it's just the tab book. There you go.
Yeah, cooking riffs.
Kind of Indonesian atmospheric noodle or something.
I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like I mean, like it's good that you're getting into movies a lot as well. Like, because me and Brad are quite big movie buffs. Like, we like watching movies as well. Like, it's genuine. I send Brad some. Like, I'll sometimes go on a bit of a rabbit hole, and I'm like, "What's the weirdest movie I can find?" And I'll send Brad like I'm like, "Have you heard about this movie?" I think you've been
Cool.
Brad. You've been doing like watching like old films from childhood, haven't you?
Old films,
Recently.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. It's old films always turn me on. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think there's something special about, because I feel like now I feel like a lot of new movies, as much as I like like the Marvel movies and all that, but I feel like it's
Yeah.
had like a weird effect on Hollywood where everyone wants to create like a franchise now. It's like, you don't have
Yeah.
to. You can just create a one-off movie and people will enjoy it. Like,
Man, I love the first Avengers, Iron Man, but nowadays it's getting too much for me, and all these connections. So I just
oh yeah,
stopped. I just stopped in the early days of Marvel movies because I found it too much. So
well,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
I grew up with Marvel comics, so I love
Well,
to watch
same here.
the movies, of course. So
Yeah,
but
like
nowadays it's getting too too messy for me. I cannot follow everything and too much series, so I just go back to the old movies. So,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, definitely. Like to be honest, it's different for me because I when I was in high school, I wasn't really like much of a social person. Like I kind of kept
yeah.
myself to myself. And I had like a friend. I had a friend also called Brad, who he was the one that got me into metal, but like he was also the one that like got me into comics. And me and him would just nerd over old comics all the time.
Oh,
So
that's
like
cool.
we would just read all these like comic books like as much as
Mhm.
we could. Like I've got a giant fucking collection of them at home, like literally like just packed out. And now like when I see them on like the big on like TV shows and stuff like that, like it's been great to see because now like that universe, because it's got so much shit in there where they're doing the multiverse and all that, and they're like it's like I'm watching the comics, like because I got used to like being shit being
Yeah,
a bit confusing from like because if you'd miss like one issue of a comic that wasn't even a relation to like what you've been reading,
yeah,
to be
yeah.
like a part in that way, like that doesn't make sense, and you'd have to find the comic it were referencing. And then you're, oh, well, that makes sense. You had to like make like the background up from just getting
Yeah.
tidbits of information. So like I got so used to that, but it's had like a negative effect because I know all that shit about the comics that now every time something new comes out in terms of like Marvel or DC, all my friends are like, so like what's this character about? And it's like, just watch the show,
Yeah,
man.
it will be long story to tell
Yeah, like I have
because
to
so
sit
many
there and like
connections.
when you explain it like to someone, like I was explaining Moon Knight to my girlfriend, like what she like, so what is Moon Knight? And we were
Mhm.
watching like the first episode and I paused it and I was like, basically he's possessed by an Egyptian god. He's like Marvel's version of like Batman. She went, how did he get possessed by an Egyptian god? Like a long story. Anyway, I'll say like he's like
All right.
Batman in that universe. The similarities are pretty. He's like also a detective. He's got multiple personality disorder. And I could
Mm.
instantly just see the interest go from her eyes, especially like I regret asking this question.
Yeah, all this multiverse thing is, you know, you know, like the last Spider-Man movie. I was in cinema and I was blown away, of course. But
Oh,
for me, still, it's like, what the fuck, like there's three Spider-Man, in the one movie. So
oh
I,
yeah.
I,
I
I know they
remember.
I know they did it in the comic, but in the movie, I don't know if I like it because it's already too brutal for me. All the all the
Yeah,
thing you have to remember, all the thing you have to see. So
yeah, yeah. Definitely.
it
I feel
doesn't
like
work anyway.
I feel like that moment in that movie though, it was just like it was so like there was so much to take in. Like where you're there, like wait a
Yes,
fucking minute,
uh,
wait a minute, because like there was
yes,
rumors
it's
that they
like
were gonna
that.
be in it, but like obviously we
Yeah.
didn't really know. I remember when I saw it in the cinema, I turned around to my mate. I'm like, I don't think I was like, this is like 20 years of my life, like right here. I was like, I watched Tobey Maguire when I was like 3 years old or some shit like that in the
Yeah,
cinema with my uncle. I saw all three of those Spider-Man movies in the cinema. And I was like, as a teenager, I saw Andrew Garfield in the cinema. And then as an
yeah,
adult, I was watching I was watching Tom Holland. And then like to
yeah.
see them all in one fucking movie. I was there like, what the fuck? I was like, honestly, I
Yeah,
lost my mind when I saw Andrew
yeah.
step out that portal. I was like, nah,
Yes, yes,
nah.
definitely. Yeah, definitely was like that. Yeah, I was definitely like, what the fuck? So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So we are sort of getting to the end point of the interview now. One thing that we like to always end on is what advice would you give to your younger self, and what advice would you give to a new musician starting out?
Oh shit, it's hard actually because I try to not to think about being in the past because
Yeah,
I'm not really person that embrace the past. But if I would meet my younger version, maybe I don't know, maybe do sports because 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 I don't really do sports of so far, and so many problems already in my physics. So I would love to tell him to do sports earlier, so not too late, like now. It's been too late actually doing like now, and maybe try to be brave with the idea you have in your mind, because I wasn't a brave person to share my opinion and things. So most of the time I just follow this person, I follow this person, and end up disappointed. So yeah, now I know what I would love to do in the past to be a better self. So I think it's not too late to change it now. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You've made an amazing album. It's nice to see like bands like yourself and Ethereal Shroud and Imperial Triumph and all of these amazing bands
Oh
popping
yeah.
up and just keeping the scene alive. Like I think black metal has never been more fresh right now. So if someone's listening, make sure you listen to this album because it's fantastic. Wish you guys all the best, and I hope that you come do a UK tour sometime because we'll be there.
Thank you so much, Brad and Nathan. Thank you so much for the change, and much appreciated. And I will tell this to Yuri about the interviews, because he would love to know everything we do. So
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for listening our album and checking out. Yeah, thank you so much. That's the only thing I
No
can.
worries.
Thank you.
It's
a
been
great
great
album.
getting you on. It's honestly it's one of my it's one of like the best releases I've listened to in black metal for a while.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you so much.
Brad knows like how like I've been. It's hard to like for me to like really get into an album, but I really enjoyed listening to yours. Because I just thought it was a lot very different to.
Yeah,
what I've
refreshing.
heard
That's so
before.
nice
If I
to
could
hear.
stick a word. Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely
That's so nice to
refreshing for
know.
me.
Really, really nice to know. Thank you so much.
No worries.
No worries.
Take that and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.